All right, so get the we're talking Elon Musk, but not Tesla or SpaceX this time.
Right.
No, this time he set his sights on the U.S. Treasury.
Oh, wow.
That's right, the place that handles Social Security, Medicare, all the money.
All of it.
And you sent over a whole pile of articles, FAQs, and even some sort of official briefing document on this, so clearly something big is going down.
It's certainly raising eyebrows.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Treasury's payment system, which pumps trillions of dollars through the economy each year.
Oh, wow.
That's direct deposits for Social Security tax refunds, payments to government contractors.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything.
Okay, so it's a big deal, but where does Elon Musk fit into all of this?
Well, he's created this thing called DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency.
Okay.
And get this, he and his DOGE team have actually been given access to the Treasury system.
Really?
With the blessing of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent himself.
Hold on, really? So Elon Musk is basically poking around in the heart of the U.S. financial system.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
That's what a lot of people are wondering.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the money.
Right.
This system is also a gold mine of sensitive personal data.
Okay.
Social Security numbers, bank details, tax info, basically a hacker's dream.
Okay, now I see why this is making headlines. So what's Musk's justification for all of this? Did he just waltz in and say, hey, let me take a look?
He's been pretty vocal on his platform X, claiming that this move is all about eliminating fraud and waste.
Okay.
He says he wants to monitor payments and put a stop to anything suspicious.
You know, that actually sounds kind of like him.
Yeah.
He sees a problem and just dives in head first.
He does.
But is there actually any evidence of this widespread fraud he's talking about?
That's the thing. So far, he hasn't really provided any concrete proof to back up those claims.
Oh, really?
And this lack of transparency is a big part of why people are getting so freaked out.
Well, can you blame them? It's like giving a kid the keys to a Ferrari and saying, don't worry, I'm sure you'll drive carefully. But this story gets even wilder. You mentioned that a career Treasury official actually refused to give Musk access and ended up resigning.
That's right.
Wow.
His name is David Lebryk.
Okay.
And his resignation is a huge red flag.
Oh, wow.
It suggests that there was some serious pushback within the Treasury about giving Musk this kind of access.
So we've got a rogue billionaire, a government agency with a ton of sensitive data, and a whistleblower who walked away rather than go along with it.
Yeah.
This is like something out of a spy movie.
It is.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, before we get into the potential risks and the political firestorm this has created, let's unpack Musk's rationale a bit more.
Okay.
Because we're being honest, there's always a chance he might actually find some inefficiencies in the system.
Okay, so maybe we shouldn't jump to conclusions just yet.
Right.
Let's hear him out.
Exactly. Let's dive into his claims about fraud and waste and see if there's any substance to them. So you're curious if Musk's claims about stopping fraud and waste actually hold any water?
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in all the drama.
Right.
And forget that he's actually presenting this as a way to improve things. Is there any possibility he's onto something?
Well, the idea of using technology to streamline government processes and identify potential fraud isn't inherently bad.
Right.
In fact, there are probably a lot of inefficiencies that could be addressed with the right approach.
Okay, so the concept itself isn't totally outlandish.
Right, but the problem is Musk hasn't provided any clear evidence or specific examples of the fraud he claims is rampant. And remember, he's talking about a system that handles trillions of dollars.
Right.
Even a small percentage of fraud could be a huge amount of money.
So it's basically a trust me situation right now. And considering his track record, not everyone is ready to just hand him the keys to the kingdom.
Exactly. And that brings us to the massive political backlash this whole thing has triggered.
Yeah.
Democrats are calling it everything from a hostile takeover to a power grab to seizing the tools for a coup.
Wow, those are some serious accusations.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're genuinely worried about the potential consequences of this.
And it's not just about the money.
Right.
Senator Murray specifically brought up the chilling possibility of political targeting.
Oh, wow.
Imagine your Social Security check being delayed or your tax refund withheld because you happen to disagree with Musk's latest tweet.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how this could spiral into a real nightmare scenario, but is that really a possibility or is this just political fear-mongering?
Well, consider that Musk isn't elected.
Right.
He's not accountable to voters the way a government official is.
Right.
And we have no idea what safeguards, if any, are in place to prevent this kind of abuse.
So it's a legitimate concern.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of all this, you mentioned potential risks to the economy as a whole. What exactly are economists worried about?
The big fear is that all this uncertainty and potential meddling could spook the markets and lead to the U.S. defaulting on its debt.
Wait, defaulting on debt? What does that even mean?
It basically means the U.S. wouldn't be able to pay its bills,
Wow.
which could have catastrophic consequences for the global economy.
Oh, geez.
Think economic meltdown, plummeting stock markets, a total loss of confidence in the U.S. dollar.
Okay, now I'm starting to understand why everyone's so on edge. This isn't just some abstract political squabble. This could have a real impact on people's lives.
Exactly. And it all comes back to the fact that there's very little transparency around what Musk and his DOGE team are actually doing.
You know, you keep mentioning the lack of transparency, and it really does seem to be at the heart of a lot of the concerns. If Musk was more open about his methods and goals, maybe people wouldn't be so suspicious.
That's a good point. It's hard to trust someone when they're operating in the shadows. And this whole situation raises a lot of questions about who's really in control here.
Well, speaking of control, you mentioned something about a lawsuit being filed to block Musk's access.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just a political stunt, or is there a real legal case here?
This is where things get even more interesting.
Right.
This isn't just some symbolic protest. This lawsuit has some serious legal teeth. It alleges that giving Musk access to the Treasury's payment system is actually illegal and violates the privacy of millions of Americans.
Okay, so we're not just talking about hypothetical risks anymore.
Yeah.
This is a real legal challenge with potentially huge implications. So this lawsuit, are they saying giving Musk access was against the law from the get-go?
Yeah.
What's the argument there?
It boils down to a couple of key points.
Okay.
Firstly, they're claiming that neither DOGE nor the Trump administration had the legal authority to hand over this level of access to a private entity. It's like letting a neighbor borrow your house key without checking if they're even allowed in the building.
And the second point?
It centers around privacy. They argue that allowing Musk to access this treasure trove of personal data violates the constitutional right to privacy for millions of Americans. Think about it. Your Social Security number bank details all your sensitive financial information potentially in the hands of an unelected billionaire.
It's not exactly a comforting thought.
Mm-hmm.
And to add insult to injury, you mentioned earlier that the Trump administration has been pretty quiet about all of this.
It's been surprisingly tight-lipped. You'd think they'd be eager to explain their reasoning and address the public's concerns. But so far, it's been radio silence, which only adds to the suspicion.
You know, it's funny, Musk is always talking about transparency and free speech. But in this case, he seems to be playing his cards pretty close to the chest.
It's definitely ironic. You'd think someone who champions open dialogue would be more forthcoming about his own actions, especially when they have such potentially far-reaching consequences.
Well, maybe this lawsuit will force some answers out into the open. Speaking of which, do we have any idea how this whole thing is going to play out?
Mm-hmm.
What's the timeline here?
It's hard to say for sure, but things seem to be moving pretty fast. It started with David Lebryk's resignation, followed by Musk's accusations of fraud on X, which really lit the fuse. Then we had senators demanding answers and expressing concerns, all while Trump was praising Musk's cost-cutting efforts. And now, bam, we have this lawsuit that could potentially bring the whole thing to a screeching halt.
It's like a political thriller in real time.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep track of all the players involved. Can we do a quick rundown of who's who in this drama?
Absolutely. At the center, of course, we have Elon Musk, the mastermind behind DOGE and the driving force behind this whole operation. Then there's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who ultimately gave Musk the green light. And we can't forget David Lebryk, the whistleblower, who resigned rather than comply. He's become a symbol of resistance against what many see as a blatant overreach of power.
And then we have the senators who are raising the alarm.
Right.
Warren, White, and Schumer. They're the ones pushing for transparency and accountability.
Right. They're essentially acting as the watchdogs, making sure the public's interests are protected. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have President Trump, who seems to be firmly in Musk's corner.
It's a real clash of titans, isn't it?
Yeah.
Powerful figures with very different visions for the future. So what does this all mean for the average person? Why should we care about this whole Musk Treasury saga?
Because it's not just about Elon Musk. This is a much bigger story about the growing power of tech billionaires and the blurring lines between private enterprise and government. This case could set a precedent for how much control private companies have over essential government functions, and that's something that should concern all of us.
So it's about more than just dollars and cents. It's about democracy and accountability. And at the end of the day, it's about us, the citizens, deciding what kind of future we want to live in.
Exactly. Do we want a future where unelected billionaires have unfettered access to our personal data and control over vital government systems? Or do we demand transparency, accountability, and a clear separation between private interests and public good?
Those are some heavy questions. And I have to admit, I'm not sure what the answers are. But I do know that we need to keep asking these questions, keep digging for the truth, and keep holding those in power accountable.
Absolutely. This story is far from over, and it's up to all of us to stay informed and engaged.
Well, thanks for diving into this with me. It's been an eye-opening experience, to say the least.
The pleasure was all mine. And remember, this isn't just some abstract political drama. This is about the future we're creating. So keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep demanding better.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, stay curious and stay engaged.